Crossing the threshold. Myself and Allie have come together to offer practical tools for your own transformation. Along this journey, this 4-week journey, we have broken down each week into a specific theme that we call the 4 pillars. Each of these pillars, you are also given astrological guidance from Allie that is specific to that theme. So if you want to check out more about what it is we're doing, just have a watch, have a listen. We tell you all about it.
Our concept is that the 4 pillars are essential parts of a path towards transformation. So that's why we call the program Crossing the Threshold, Practical Tools for Transformation. Because all of our discussions, we're always talking so much about all of these things that you and I both really value so much and are part of our daily lives, and really seeing how those things are essential to a real spiritual path and being able to move yourself forward in the way that you want to. And these are really relatable, understandable things, most of them. And the ones that aren't, we're going to be here as guides to help people connect with them and find ways to bring them into their lives. So the 4 pillars are art and creativity, healthy or holistic life practices, meditation and introspection, and supportive connections. And so the cool part about this program is that we're going to talk about all of these 4. And as I've been thinking about it, Sarah, I've been thinking about them as self-care practices. Everyone is getting familiar with that term, self-care. And so I've been thinking about these as important self-care practices that are also part of the spiritual path. And then the fun part of this particular program is we're going to bring the astrological piece into the 4 pillars. The timing of this program is really awesome because we're starting on a major historical astrological event, which is the Neptune Jupiter conjunction in Pisces on April 12th. And this event is a huge opportunity for spiritual growth, to move forward onto the next step of your path. It's affecting everyone in the world, but it's going to be reaching us where we are, like every energy, astrological event, things like that. The opportunity is only as good as we make it, or as we are prepared to take advantage of. If you haven't been preparing any kind of major shift in your life, it's not just going to happen. This is something you have to work on. So these tools and these pillars are ways to help people take advantage of that. And the unique thing about astrology is that we've always got things happening on this global level, and then we also have things happening on this personal level. And the way that those 2 interact is unique to each person's chart. So my part of the program, or one of my parts, is that I'm going to do individualized readings for each person enrolled and really tailor the information about their chart to each pillar. So the participants will get a weekly recording from me talking about the pillar of the week and how that shows up in their chart. Do you have any questions about that? Am I on point, Sarah? Am I going in the right flow?
Yes,
Yes.
you're being very descriptive in a lovely way. And
Okay.
it's exciting. I think it's so unique because you are going to be giving little voice clips that are specific to each week. So in the creative expression in art, which aspect of our chart in each individual is going to be specifically, highlighted. And then what does that look like individually, because we're all unique. And so when you give this little voice clip about that uniqueness, I think it's a real gift for each person. So in the creative expression, what that's going to be looking like, that's obviously something I do regularly. We're going to be doing a little soul. It's like a portrait. I will be creating an image of each person's face and then emailing it to them, because all of this is done online. So they can print it and draw, color, paint their face. And so you get to spend a week with your face. And really, what the neat thing about art, what I've always felt, is all of your limitations come up to the surface. So now you're going to be painting or drawing your face, and you're going to get really close to yourself, you know, and then you get to choose whether you fall into all of this criticism and self-sabotage, or you get to choose whether this is an opportunity to now give yourself a lot of love and appreciation and gratitude. Because here we are, you know, we are all wherever going to be, and we really need to step into acceptance of ourselves so that we can be doing it for other people too. So that's the first pillar. That's the first week and what we're gonna be doing. And then we'll be coming together on the Tuesday morning to talk about the pillar, to also open it up, because this is very much a community setting as well. So we want other people to be asking questions and sharing as well, because it helps. So that'll be the first week. And then the second week, if you want to talk about the holistic practices and what that's all about.
Yeah. So one thing I was going to say about the pillars overall is that these are all ways, both like you were saying, to bring up limitations and to face limitations, because they're going to come out through each of these 4 different areas. And then the community is there to help support, provide guidance, provide a space for people to share what they're going through as they are doing this process. But there are also ways that really connect us to the heart. And this is a big theme for you, and it is for me as well in my own life, that these are things that get us out of our heads, into our bodies, into our hearts, which is where all the real information that we're looking for can be found. This is where our intuition is. This is where our connection to the spiritual world, to the natural world, to animals, that's all living here. And in our culture, we're so much up here, and we're doing work, and we're on the computers, and we're thinking, and everything has to be logical and rational, and that we haven't learned how to do this. And so each of these pillars is a different way. It's a different avenue or approach into the heart as I see them. So I wanted to say that first. So then the second pillar being healthy, holistic practices. This is things that you and I both love and are passionate about. So some sort of physical movement. And this program is offering an amazing access to your yoga classes, which have literally changed my life. I know that sounds trite or something, but it's really true. I have been a really physically active person my whole life. I've done a lot of different sports. I was a boxer, I'm an equestrian, I was a runner. I never got into yoga really. And then going through this winter and the really dark period of time was when I connected with your classes and just made it a thing that I'm going to do this as many days as I possibly can. And it just became like an anchor for me, and like something that was getting me through really dark times. And I told you I was joking, I became addicted to yoga because now I'm like, I have to do my yoga, but it really helps. It just, and in the winter and not having to have equipment, not having to leave the house, it was the perfect container. And now that I've been doing it consistently for, a while, I'm starting to like feel differently in the classes and see some change, which is amazing. So the yoga classes are part of this package. Other holistic healthy practices that we'll talk about include all kinds of different things, time in nature, food and nutrition, other kinds of energy healing practices, things that you and I are both connected to, knowledgeable about, passionate about, that we can be a resource for people in exploring that and figuring out what parts of these different practices they need to fit together for their own well-being. And the astrological piece, it definitely tells us some themes in terms of the sixth house, actually, in a birth chart is partly about daily routines, like these kinds of things that you do on a regular basis for self-care, your physical health, things like that. So by looking at everybody's sixth house, I'll be able to see what the dynamics are there. If there's some particular wound or some particular, karmic baggage or a goal or a theme, what archetypes are showing up in that area. And then I can tell people about that. I was going to say on that topic, and then we'll jump to the next one, is about the astrological info and how it's going to work, is that I think a lot of people, if they've had contact with an astrologer, they've had a birth chart reading, they did a sit down long thing, they got a whole bunch of information that they maybe could absorb this much of it. And then it just kind of goes to the back of your mind and you don't really use it a lot and you're not really sure how it applies. And my goal as an astrologer is to change that and to make astrology a useful, practical, daily or weekly, or however you want to use it, tool, because that's what it really is and what it can be. But in order to do that, you have to learn how to apply it in these kinds of ways. How does it affect this one thing? And then think about that on its own for a week without trying to absorb this massive thing. I just think it's too much for people and it's not super helpful. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm
I would like to say, just because of knowing you and my involvement with you, is you are so steadfast in following through with that mission. Because when I talk to you about something, whether something's going on for me personally or something I've observed, you will go to the chart and speak from that. And there's always a clicking that comes from that. It's like you speak my language, and I can feel how that would be really appropriate for everyone else if you're speaking from their chart. And so you're really utilizing a gift and following through with it. And so it's really beautiful. So I just want to say that openly, that I have firsthand experience with you doing this, and I think it's just so helpful. And I'm really glad that you're open to sharing that with more people. And I also wanted to say, towards the healthy practices pillar, is that how often we make goals to do something or to put something in our schedule and we don't. And one of the wonderful things about coming together, even if it is for a limited period of time, is accountability and community coming together. And so just like you have this the willpower and the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, to keep yourself on track, you found that yoga was an anchor. And that is what a lot of these healthy practices and holistic practices are meant to do, because they empower you. Become empowered by putting time aside for yourself, and you start to kind of hone your energy into something that is feeding and fulfilling for you. So you end up reaping the benefits. And until we place ourselves in a position to be held accountable and to know that we are supported by others in doing so, I feel like the motivation factor is there so much better. And then possibly you can move forward by adopting some of these things. And we're going to be throwing in different types of practices. Like, a lot of people know this about me, that sun gazing is a daily thing for me, and I do believe it's necessary, especially with all of this EMF invasion that we have with increased frequencies and cell phone towers and Wi-Fi. It's just a whole new level for our nervous system. And I do find that the solar rays, they really do something to the endocrine system to reset things. And I feel it in my body. So I will definitely be giving some suggestions about that. Like right now, the sun comes up at 7:20 Mountain Standard Time. So yeah, you start to kind of adjust your sleeping schedule even to the sun, which we've come away from needing to do that on so many levels. But there's going to be certain things that will introduce, and some of it maybe will be appropriate for you, and some maybe won't. So then we get into the meditation and introspection. So maybe the healthy practices is a little bit more about the doing and how to move our body. But then we really need the balance, because overall the 4 pillars, and even the fact that we have 4, is about balance. And so the meditation and introspection piece is that yin to the yang, right? So to go inward and to access all the information that we have. And again, like you said so eloquently about the path to the heart, which is so much what we are about, but kind of accessing ways to drop in and then being able to digest what it is that we experience. So that's also why we do this over a period of time, because if we just like come in and give all this information really quickly, there's a digestion period and an integrative period that's required. And so at least we get to work through each week this way. So there will be questions that we'll be giving for the introspection and meditation, just things that you can journal about that will be specific to what it is that we are working through as well.
Yeah, and because astrology is actually a spiritual practice, and it's intended to be guidance for the soul and guidance from the soul, because the idea in evolutionary astrology is that your own soul created your chart. This came from your momentum from prior to your birth, which is why it was there at the moment you were born. And ultimately, the whole purpose of the chart is to show you your path towards spiritual evolution and what is going to help you on that path, where you might hit potential pitfalls and things like that. But it is a spiritual practice. And therefore, in everyone's chart, there is information about particular spiritual practices or paths. It's not that specific in the way that like the chart doesn't say you should be a Hindu or you should, it doesn't say things like that. It's archetypal, but it could say things like for your spiritual path, you need a lot of expansion and a lot of learning and exploration. So this is particularly linked to the planet Neptune, which is one of the 2 planets in this conjunction. Neptune is about how we connect to higher consciousness. So meditation and introspection are very Neptunian things. And so, for instance, you and I, Sarah, we both have Neptune in Sagittarius, which is why we love to get together and talk about spiritual ideas and spiritual philosophies, and we want to learn new things and we want to expand spiritually. Sagittarius is very expansive energy and really likes to learn and cross cultural boundaries and things like that. So everyone's Neptune is in a different spot, and I will tell people in their recording about their Neptune and what that has to say about types of meditative and introspective practices that will likely be a good fit for them or the most fulfilling for them.
That's so wonderful. I think that's valuable information. I would like to know. Well, you tell me this kind of stuff.
The benefits of being friends with an astrologer, right?
So, and of course the connections piece, we can't miss that. That's key. And definitely over the past couple of years, I think we all have a very good experience with what the lack of that means, and the craving for it, and what it really means for us. And we'll be coming together to share in that again. But I don't know if you have anything more to say about the supportive connections piece. I feel like you do.
Of course I do, right? I can talk about these things forever. Yeah, I think the idea of having the weekly group, so the weekly sessions are going to be, the first part will be a presentation co-facilitated by you and I, and then we will have discussion time, question sharing opportunities for people to connect, which is why we're keeping this to a very small group so that we can have this intimate kind of environment container for people. But absolutely, connections are essential. And you and I both have connections to a lot of different things. So there's, of course, connections to other people, but we are both big on connections with animals, connections with nature. You could even put connection to yourself in a way in that category, on that a different level, connection to some sort of spiritual guidance or other kinds of guides, human or non. So I think just creating this whole program is about creating a space for that and helping people to feel more connected in that. And we are also going to both be offering some follow-up special offers to the participants of this group who want to continue to do work with either one of us. So that's another piece where if this becomes a very nourishing and supportive experience, that will provide a way for that to continue. And I think, we have not talked about this yet, but I think it's really likely we're going to be doing this again, some kind of program like this again. So maybe on a slightly different theme, but to continue providing that kind of space for people.
Right. I think it's so important. And, funny how it goes, but even though we're dealing with 4 specific pillars, they all do interweave and intermingle, time. So the connections piece is also really what you're establishing through the healthy practices and even through the creative expression. And so we know this in our own lives and the importance of it, and we're just sharing it. So that's really the key thing, is it's coming from a very authentic place. Works for both of us, and we're just going to be sharing it. And yeah, hopefully it can just keep growing and getting better. And as my Virgo self likes to think.
Absolutely. Always improving with Virgo. But yeah, and the chart has a lot to say about relationships. There's a number of houses that are focused on relationships, and relationships show up in almost all areas of our life. So there's always a lot to say about that. Actually, we could do a whole program just on relationships. Maybe we should, because it's such a deep topic and there's so much in the chart about it. And that could be unpacked definitely over a 4-week program, if not longer. So we'll have to think about that if people are interested.
Hey. Well, yeah, I think that's a really great explanation for what we're offering. We're doing it during every Tuesday morning. So starting on April 12th, it'll be Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. It will be recorded. So if you can't make the Zoom call, you can submit any questions that you want to be answered beforehand, and we can answer any of your questions on the Zoom. But you can also watch it after. You'll also be presented with all the information you need each week via email. So it's not really something that you have to be somewhere specific for. This autonomy is something I've really come to value post the pandemic, because life is busy. And if we always had to be physically going somewhere, which maybe is helpful for a lot of people, to keep them accountable and to keep them on track, which a lot of people need. But we'll use that accountability in sort of a different way, and just honoring the autonomy. So I'm excited about it.
Me too. I think this is going to be a wonderful experience.
Awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, that's just what we wanted to let you all know, just in a little nutshell, what it is that we're doing. And we start on April 12th, and then that's the start, and we'll just keep going. So thank you.